Owen, thanks for coming on the podcast. We always start with a brief introduction of yourself, the business that you're in, and then we'll take it from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Owen Burley. I'm one of the co-founders at Coachbar, and at Coachbar, there's three separate products we have: ChannelBoost, AppVentory, and StackPlan.
Cool. Before we go into what the business does and who it serves now, you just want to take us through a whistle-stop tour of your career up until starting Coachbar, and then we'll get into how that came about and the reasons behind founding that.
Yeah, so I've been in and around technology for, crikey, maybe 10 or 11 years now. Kind of fell into it accidentally, as many of us do, but I started my career working for ERP providers. Spent 5 years mainly in a sort of consulting and sales capacity at one organization, then sort of moved to a second called SYN7, which is probably more well-renowned globally as an inventory management tool, and was there as they acquired Deer Systems and managed both of those teams from a sales and consulting capacity in the EMEA. And that's where I met some of our other co-founders. As a group of co-founders, we're all either ex-Xero or ex-SYN7. So that's how I connected with them. And when my time came to an end at that organization, I got chatting to some of our now other co-founders, and our CEO, Doug, had just this amazing idea. I think we were all aware of the problem, but he had this incredible idea, this plan, this vision of how we could tackle some of the issues that we'd experienced within our careers at SYN7 and for them at Xero. And that's where we've been since, really, at Coachbar, trying to solve for these problems over the last, next month it'll be two years.
Nice. What are those problems that you saw, and why do you think that the companies that you were in weren't looking to fix them?
It's a difficult thing to solve for, right? So, and it's multi-threaded. So, one of the problems we saw on the software provider side was that the tools that were available on the market for us, certainly from a partnerships capacity, were quite expensive, for one. In fact, very expensive, and a lot of them would charge based on essentially what we call clipping the ticket, so that our success ultimately meant that we had to pay them more. So they would take a percentage cut out of referrals and commission payments and that sort of thing. We also felt that the products were quite broad. They were quite niche, the opposite. So they were quite niche in what they offered, and for the software providers that we worked for, we had multi-threaded channel operations. So we weren't just focused on affiliate partnerships. We were also focused on resellers, value-added resellers, implementation partners, strategic partners, technology partners. There were loads of different channels by which we had partners, and it was very difficult to find a solution that, one, wasn't extortionately expensive, but two, also solved for all of those within one product without having to have multiple products left, right, and center, which just made the price go up, and it made the complexity go up, and then errors started to happen, and you end up having sort of manual processes between these systems, and it just wasn't efficient for us. It didn't give us good customer outcomes and partnership outcomes as a result of that, because our partners would have to use many different applications in order to gain assets from us, or understand what their commission is going to be, or send us referrals, or manage their directory on our website. And that's a bad experience for them, because if you think about it, they're doing that with us, but also with a bunch of other partners that they're probably connected with as well. So it's that's one of the problems we wanted to solve for. We also knew how successful partners were from our perspective as a software provider. So they gave us much lower levels of churn when a customer went through a partner. The customers were much happier and used more of the product when they'd had the support of a partner, which kind of makes sense, right? Having an expert help you implement a tool, someone who's implemented it previously and knows what they're doing, rather than you doing it yourself and sort of DIY botching it. of course you're going to get better outcomes. But that was a good thing for us as a software provider. We wanted to scale that, but the trouble was there was a finite number of sort of software consultants and implementers out there that we could access. Ultimately, there needs to be more. So then we got to thinking, well, what type of organizations are closest to becoming that type of partner, and which have the capacity to, or the potential to actually up their game ultimately, and introduce new revenue lines and be that partner that we needed. And the opportunity was quite clear, in particular in the UK, but I think it's the same globally, is that accountants and bookkeepers, a lot of them are already taking a position, having an opinion on technology. They have to, because it's, with the way that the ecosystems are that we work within now, certainly within Xero and QuickBooks and others, there are so many different applications. There are so many things that help people become more efficient, and there's so much exciting stuff over the hill in terms of AI and how that can be leveraged in the correct ways. As an accountant or a bookkeeper, you kind of have to have your finger in that pie, at least to understand what's going on, if not to actually act on it. So for us, that's where we saw the potential of increasing the number of partners that we could access. But the trouble was, a lot of them were quite reactive to their advisory services. They'd see a fire and they'd put it out. They wouldn't necessarily prevent the fire from happening in the first place. So that's where our second product came into play, AppVentory. We wanted to help tech advisors, software consultants, software implementers, accountants, bookkeepers become better at being more proactive around how they deliver tech advisory through discovery, through understanding what problematic apps your clients have, where the opportunity lies for you as an organization to help them correct that. And ultimately a more streamlined way of delivering that, because that was the main problem. The revenue opportunity is there, but you need to be able to have the correct tools in place to access it, and the correct processes in place in order to make that an efficient, almost as repeatable as it can be process. So that was AppVentory, and then the third proposition that we have is as I mentioned, StackPlans, and that is really more of an education play for the SMB audience to help them understand the importance of considering a plan when it comes to making changes with their technology. We saw so many people do DIY implementation through our careers at previous roles, and one of the big problems that we highlighted was that those that used partners had often had a failed implementation previously, so they'd felt the pain of trying to do it themselves, and as a byproduct, they understood the value of investing in a partner to support them through their journey. And those that did it themselves obviously hadn't gone through that pain. And like with anything in life, if you're not going to go out and find a solution for something that's not painful yet. So I think with StackPlans, we wanted to help people to connect with, not just with partners, but understand what do those partners do? What software do they specialize in? What combinations of software work really well together? And that's where the StackPlans come from, because it's essentially app stacks that can be showcased by all of the partners within our network. And so it's kind of, I think, giving back to the partner community a little bit in terms of helping them with generating more business. But also then that feeds into the proposition for software providers to generate them more business as well. So not necessarily a product, it's more of a content and education play from our perspective.
I can imagine like all the co-founders being very frustrated in their previous roles of, it seemed like it comes out of a place of messy processes, like you say, having to do things like putting manual processes in, and then also like a lack of support on the stuff that have the manual processes. Would that be quite an accurate summary?
Yeah, so definitely manual processes cost human hours, and that prevents those humans from being more productive in terms of expanding on partnership operations. So wherever you've got a manual process around sending emails or sharing assets or creating new assets or calculating commissions and reconciling those commissions, or it might be just basic communication with your partners and having a formalized process. If a job takes an hour where it should be automated, and you have that happening multiple times a day, which we did have, it's painful. And then also, if you're not finding the right product and you're having to swap between products constantly, the operational cost to the organization is huge. And we swapped quite a few times the partner systems that we were using because we just couldn't find the right thing. And we'd think it was the right thing, and then you'd get into it, and actually, it was you thought you'd bought a Ferrari, but actually you're driving a Fiesta, and it's kind of that negative experience where it just wasn't what we expected. And we tried all of the big brands out there from a partnership tool, the different PRMs and channel management systems that were out there, and none of them were a good fit for us. Some of them were really good in certain areas, but none of them offered everything that we needed in one place. So certainly with ChannelBoost, which is our channel management solution, that's why it was created. We wanted to create a compound solution that offers everything that you need at all levels of partnership programs. So even if you're right at the beginning of your journey and you're just starting to enter into the market of channels and explore the opportunity more, we have an offering there that's a really, really low entry point of price, with great functionality for where you are within your journey. And similarly, if you're well established, you've got partnerships team and you've got, processes in place and a really clear strategic plan as to where you want to go next. Again, the modular approach means that you can either take all of the modules or you can pick the ones that are relevant to you, because even if you're in that place, you might not be doing anything with affiliate partners and you might have no desire to do that. Don't get the affiliate module then. You're not paying for something that you don't need. I think in life, not just with software, but in life, when you're paying for something that comes as part of a bundle that you're never going to use, it just, you're paying a premium for that, and it's kind of frustrating to have to pay for something that is never going to be useful. It's off-putting. So that's why we were very keen to offer the modular approach, give people what they need, make people pay for what they need. It's, kind of common sense really, but it's just, it's not something that's practiced at all in the partnership space.
And then it goes to the second part, like why have the previous companies not solved this, or do they just not want to? It won't make a difference to they're already a market leader. They just don't need to solve that kind of problem.
Well, so with ChannelBoost, which is the channel management solution, what we did was we had to put a lot of convoluted bespoke processes in place. So we did solve for it, but it was expensive. It was very time consuming. It wasn't scalable, and it wasn't future-proof. When anyone says that they're building their own tools internally, it always makes me shudder, because if you're a software provider and you're building a product for your audience, that's where all of your attention should be. There are so many tools out there. There's hundreds, if not thousands of products out in market right now doing all sorts of different things that can help you achieve your goals. If you're taking resource away from your product team or your marketing team or any internal teams to build internal products that are only ever going to be used by you, it's just such a resource drain. We don't do that here. It's our organization. We invest heavily in our app stacks at Coachbar. We have huge spend on software internally across all of our departments, because we recognize the importance of investing in good technology, and that future-proofs our scalability as an organization, and also means that we're very doubled down and focused on our product in terms of its development. We have the right tools to be able to get there, and we can deliver a great service to our customers as a result of that as well, because we've got the best product supporting us in that aim. So yes, technically you can go and build your own products. Software providers are in that space because they can build these products, but it's not an easy thing to do. And whenever I've seen it, the shelf life of those products tends to be limited, and then or you have to continually maintain that product, which basically means you're paying for people on the books to maintain a product that's only, it's not revenue generating, so it's kind of a loss to everyone. So that would be my first point. And then with AppVentory, that kind of came as a byproduct of an issue that we saw. Not so much what I saw really. This is more what my co-founders who worked at Xero saw in the accounting community, is that there was so much potential for the accountants to do more with advisory services, whether that be with implementation or just giving advice and passing it to someone who knows how to implement it, or passing it to the correct software provider. But it was really challenging for them, because over the last 5 years, the number of apps in this space have increased significantly, and that's not slowing down. The amount that customers are spending on software has increased significantly. There's no signs of that slowing down either. So the game has become more complex because there's more options and no one can be across all options. And so it can be quite overwhelming to know where to start, and accountants and bookkeepers generally are quite risk adverse. So they don't want to put their skin in the game at the risk of their reputation being harmed. So I think the way that we've created AppVentory is that they can control their advisory or implementation or the products that they're comfortable with in a way where it's on their terms. Like they can say, we've checked this out, it's approved, it's good. And they might only have 3 or 4 different apps that they want to give advisory around or that they want to offer implementation services for at the bottom end. And it might all just be financial apps, the stuff that they're really comfortable within their ecosystem. And that's great. So that is still advisory. Like you're still helping people to implement and take on, and you're basically welcoming customers to a new product they've never heard of, educating them on what it does, and potentially even helping them to implement it. That's tech advisory. And then at the other end of the scale, you've got the other types of tech advisors in the accounting community that are really, really they've put a lot of resource, a lot of energy into learning about what products are out there and building their own app stacks, and then there's just no tools that exist to help them formalize more of a process around that internally and create more structure around how they deliver on that. So that's why we created AppVentory, is that there is just no tool that does it. It's quite unique in the way that we've created it because we don't have a competitor. There is no one else doing what we do, and I think it's probably one of the only apps really within the ecosystems that we operate that just has no competitor other than manual processes. So that's super exciting, and I think it represents the sort of and the next generation of where we are with software and the demands of what customers and clients need. And I think also it serves all of the audiences. It helps accountants, bookkeepers, tech advisors to become better at the way they deliver and more proactive rather than reactive. It helps software providers to ultimately win more business and have customers that are happier with their usage of the product, which is good for them. And obviously the customers themselves, they're actually getting the right technology in place. They're actually, investing in tools that can make a difference, that help them become more efficient, that improve their bottom line, help them grow and generate more revenue. So it's exciting to work for a company that has a product that serves all 3 audiences and improves the outcomes genuinely for all 3 audiences as well, because that's a rarity.
Yeah. I'm going to come back to something that you just said there in terms of having no competitors, but I just want to go to like the structure of like the co-founders, like your co-founders, and usually when I speak to people that have got just one co-founder, but I know you've got multiple, and they usually have they're usually the complete opposite. So they might look after one half of the business and the other person looks after the other half. What is your role in the day-to-day, and what is your role in that co-founder team?
I think we all wear many hats, and anyone who's a co-founder will know that, especially in a startup, your role changes over time. So at one point I've been research, the next I've been product testing, the next I've been marketing, the next I've been sales, event coordinator. Your hats change sometimes on an hourly basis. But my official role is to sort of lead things forward as an advocate for our products in the UK. I have a particular focus on ChannelBoost just because my background in the software space, I can really resonate and understand the problems that a lot of the software providers are going through, and I think it helps me when I'm talking to them to understand from their perspective. I've not been an accountant in a prior life, and I've worked with accountants throughout my career when it's linked to the ERP products and inventory products that I've worked with. But I wouldn't claim for a second to really understand their day-to-day operations and but be beyond a high level and beyond really parroting what I've been told and what I've been told in research. So I probably step back a little bit in that area, and the reason being is that we've got so many co-founders here that are ex-Xero, are ex-accountants, and really do understand their perspective. So they take the lead on that. I tend to take more of the lead on the ChannelBoost product. And yeah, I guess I'm out there just sharing the good word, just spreading spreading brand awareness, letting people know that we're here, letting them know, what problems we're solving for. I'll be at all of the events that are coming up over the next couple of months in our space, to sort of share what we're up to, and hopefully that resonates with some, and they're interested to trial or have a look, or just have a conversation.
Yeah, that does lead nicely into what I was going to come back to on the having no competitors, because usually a business is born out of like taking something that somebody's already doing and just putting your own spin on it or taking it to the next level. How do you get the like you say, getting the message out there that you exist and and what you do? How have you gone about that so far in terms of like getting the awareness of like that this product exists and this is what we do, and this is why you need us?
Yeah, it's a good question. So, there's not really just one answer to this. Really, it is just about putting your face in all of the and having a voice in all of the conversations that that your audience exist in. So we've got an idea of who our ICPs are, our ideal customer profiles, and the kinds of people who we think would most benefit from using our tools and products. So really, the last 2 years, right from the moment go, we've been doing research, a lot of research, speaking to people, and having them come on the journey with us. So we've had an idea right from the beginning, but that idea has morphed and changed, and quite radically in certain moments to reflect consistent feedback that we've had from the audiences that we're trying to serve. So with software providers and ChannelBoost, with tech advisors, accountants, with AppVentory, we've done extensive research calls, and basically brought them on the journey with us, like listened to their feedback and tried to deliver on what they need and what they want, and solve for their pains. You solve enough pains, you end up selling a product. That's the name of the game, right? In addition to that, obviously there's a lot of events. That's fairly straightforward. You have to get your name, your brand out there, and again, just ask for connections. If you meet someone and you get on well, and it resonates with them, likely it is they're connected with other people that it would probably also resonate with, and would also benefit, and they'd also be interested in a conversation around it. Worst case scenario is you get a beer and make a new friend. Best case is that you've got someone who could genuinely, benefit from engaging with you. So, I think it's just about putting yourself out there in every possible way that you can. Obviously, there's the marketing and the brand and the website stuff, the socials. That's all expected. So I'm trying to sort of explain the things that aren't completely obvious. Even the things I've mentioned probably are completely obvious, but it's just about being that friendly face. People buy from people, especially at the beginning when you're in a startup. I think you are quite heavily reliant on your existing network, people that you know to either buy from you or to introduce you into their extended network. So I think, just being that friendly guy. I think it's important not to be too pushy as a salesperson. I have been in roles earlier in my career where I've been the pushy sales guy, and depending on what you're doing, that can sometimes work. But for the last 10 years, really, since I've worked in technology, I've always been more of a consultative salesperson. And I've sort of brought that with me into my career here, and that is just about connecting with people and reading the room, and not sort of blindly moving forwards with your own sort of objectives, ignoring all of the triggers that are in front of you. I think it's important to listen to people, understand where they're at, and genuinely understand. I think what's important to them. What do they want? What do they want out of this engagement? Where are they at in their journey? Is it the right time? So I think it's just about listening and making friends and being a people person.
That's good to hear, because I was the first, probably 2 years ago, you could set a team up of 10 SDRs, get them to blast the phones, set up a load of meetings, and then sell to people off the back of that. But people don't want to jump on calls for call's sake now. So you've got to build that relationship. You've got to educate them on what you actually do and why it could be a benefit for them. That's why we've gone down the route of like big change of create content, let people do their own research on you, get to know your face, get to know who you are, before you're then reaching out to them and saying, hey, this is what we do, and come and buy from us. Like, people want to do that on their own terms now, so that the building relationships thing is just so big, and it's good to hear that you've already recognized that and are doing that, like events. It's almost like the sales, B2B sales has gone back 20 years in the networking, and like so good.
Especially in the communities that we operate in, in particular the accounting community, and the software providers that are affiliated with it. For our AppVentory product, one of the things that I have recognized is that accountants generally, when they're scoping out a product, when they're looking to what to invest in, they'll not just be looking at the credibility of what the product can offer functionality wise. They'll be looking at who else is using it. What's your rating like? If I ask people in my network, will they know who you are? Has anyone in my network already mentioned you? So it's kind of like a weird game of Chinese whispers, really, in a strange way. So I think it's just important with every engagement we have with every accountant, every bookkeeper, every tech advisor, every software provider. We want people walking away, not necessarily knowing intricately what we do, but we want them walking away understanding what our value proposition is at a high level. What's our elevator pitch? Do they understand what we offer and who we are? And then also walking away knowing that we've not tried to shove something down their throat, that actually, oh yeah, that Owen, he's a nice guy. Yeah, I'd go for a beer with him again. I think that those are the two main things that I look at as being really important, because accountants, bookkeepers, they generally don't buy things quickly. They are, probably rightly so, very, very well, very considered in their approach to investing in technology. They don't buy on a whim. I worked with some teams out in the in the SMB space for America for a while, and cracky, they'll invest in anything. Like it's a dream job as a salesperson, because it's like you can just have a demo, like, yeah, all right, we'll buy it. So Christ, that's completely different from anything I've ever experienced. Whereas in the UK, and in particular with accountants, they're very considered, they're very methodical in a way that they evaluate their next step, because they're so risk averse. They don't want to make a mistake, because that's a bad reflection both on them and a negative impact for their clients. So that's a good thing, generally speaking. But it also means that you're not just going to walk up and sell something quickly, usually. Especially the further up market you go with it, the larger the organization, the more stringent they will be around their processes. So it's just important to, like I said, get your brand name out there, increase your brand reputation, increase your personal reputation alongside that. And then, if you consistently do those things correctly, then the dominoes will start falling, and it will then be a predictable sort of model of revenue that you can start generating. And that just scales and scales and scales. Yeah. The more business, the more logos and business that you win, the more brand reputation you've got, the more events you can afford to go to, the more, and then it just spirals from there. So yeah, events are incredibly important to us this year, and I think beyond as well.
Yeah, because I guess the goal for you will be eventually to people don't even have to speak to you, and then they're already sold. That's the goal eventually, which we will get to if we keep doing the right things.
I was having a conversation with my family the other night, and they still don't understand what I do. I feel like, I don't know if anyone else works in technology, and your family sort of ask you what you do, and you try and explain what you do, and they're like, yeah, completely over my head. It's only people in technology that understand what people in technology actually do, which is funny. But I was having a conversation with them, and we've just been approved within the Xero app Marketplace, which is a huge milestone for us. And I was expecting them to be like, oh, who's Xero? What's Xero? Xero are obviously a huge brand, like 5 million plus customers, massive, massive brand, in particular in the UK. And they didn't ask. They're like, oh, Xero, yeah, I've seen their adverts. So Xero got to that point. They're at the top of their game, where people who aren't in technology, they still know who Xero are. Others to mention are companies like Apple and Microsoft, and they're becoming a household name. Now, very few software providers will ever get to that point, but that's where we want to be within the community, where people talk about AppVentory, or they talk about ChannelBoost, and like, oh right, yeah, ChannelBoost. I know that they help with software providers to grow their channels and help with partnerships. Like, even if they only know that, like, there's so much more we do, but even if they know the position we sit in, great. that's a win. And same with AppVentory. Oh, they're the ones that help accountants with their tech advisory and help them to automate their processes. Great. Yeah, I know what they do. Perfect. Like, again, we do so much more, but that's enough for them to know the position we sit in. And if they're ever looking to streamline their tech advisory services or become more automated or structured or just generate more revenue, they know to speak to us first, because that's where we exist and that's where we sit. So that's the objective, really.
Yep. Good stuff. We'll finish with, where do you envision the business going? Obviously you mentioned very briefly, everybody's talking about the introduction of AI. So yeah, it'd be good to hear from where maybe like a 5-year goal of the business, where you want to get to. Obviously eventually get into that household name within the industry. But where do you see the next few years going, whether that's for the business or in the industry in general?
Blimey, there's so many ambitions that we have. Certainly, we want to bring the products closer together. So we want to create a flywheel motion, an ecosystem where software providers, tech advisors, and SMB, and sort of generally software users can all exist within this ecosystem. And we've got loads of ideas for how we can do that for the benefit of everyone, really. We've also got some ideas around AI. I don't want to give too much away because a lot of these are still quite conceptual, but we've got some good ideas for how we can improve our AppVentory product to not just help with the delivery on tech advisory services and tech implementation services, but also ways that we can help the software providers to get involved, to give one of the big problems that we've found, again, another thing through our research, is that it's not just that there's so many products in market right now, hundreds of different products just within the Xero app ecosystem, which is overwhelming. I've heard the term app overwhelm quite frequently used by a lot of these accountants. There's just so much to learn and understand. It's difficult to know what product is best for what. On top of that, even for the existing products that maybe you do have a good understanding on, there are updates going out every month, every quarter, big product releases that could have a huge impact for you or your clients, and you're just not aware of it because it's so difficult to keep across it on top of all of the other responsibilities that these guys have on their day-to-day. So we wanted to be able to create a new, like I said, to create that flywheel, create that link between the products, have the software providers actually post, their product updates, key information around changes to their technology, so that within AppVentory they can actually access that in a centralized way. Because there are tools out there that have tried to do it but haven't succeeded. It's not been executed well so far. But if we could say to a tech advisor, go and select the products that you have expertise in, and within this one platform, you'll be able to do all of the tech advisory, discovery, delivery, planning, structure, discovery, everything that you need to do in that tool, great. But also, we're going to help you keep across those products in terms of the major updates. Anything you really need to know about, this is going to be the place where you come to find it and understand it and learn more. So we really want to expand on that, that tech advisory, just basically give as many tools as we can to tech advisors to do their job better, to help them save time, save money, become more efficient, because everything that we do is driving towards customer outcomes. We want to help customers get better products implemented more successfully, and basically to help them to grow. That's our main objective as Coachbar as an organization, and everything we build is to that ultimate North Star. If we can help the tech advisors be better tech advisors, do more tech advisory, they can reach more SMBs and deliver that great service to more people. That's going to help the software providers as well, because then they have more time internally to focus on product rather than building out internal teams of onboarding, and that's very cost expensive. And generally, internal onboarding teams, they're great when it comes to your product, but they don't necessarily understand the wider ecosystem so much, which these tech advisors often do. So yeah, it kind of benefits everyone, but those are some of the ideas that we have. And as I mentioned, we will be including some AI components to that, but it's all a bit cloak and daggers with that at the minute, so I don't want to say too much on it.
That's fun. Good stuff. Yeah, if people liked what you've said today and want to reach out or look at some of the services that you provide at Coachbar, where can they find you?
Yeah, so you can come to our website, www.coachbar.io, or indeed, if you're more interested in AppVentory, www.appventory.com. You can also find me on LinkedIn, Owen Burley, and connect with me and pop me a message on there. Or feel free to pop me an email, owen.burley@coachbar.io. And yeah, I'd be happy to have a conversation. I'll also be a few events coming up soon. I'll be at the Festival of Bookkeeping, which is, I believe, at the NEC on the start of March, somewhere around there, around 10th, 11th of March, something like that. I'll also be at the Digital Accounting Show. We'll be exhibiting at both of those events. That's at the end of March, start of April. So yeah, plenty of ways to reach me if you want to chat.
Awesome. Perfect. Owen, thanks for coming on, and hopefully we can do it again in the future once you've implemented some AI and you can tell us about that.
Thanks, Tom. Yeah, appreciate you having me, mate.